Max has scaled some insanely profitable Skool communities over the last couple of months. He even ended up winning the Skool games and has gone on to make over $2 million in 12 months scaling this offer. He's actually now started scaling an offer, teaching other people how to do exactly the same. So we're going to break down how his funnels work and essentially how he's become so profitable. Now, the first thing to bear in mind is he's really capitalized on the fact that you can now build an incredibly profitable business without a huge amount of overhead because of the ability to sell information. So the old days of essentially having to sell a service of running someone's ad, building someone's website, essentially doing something that can become quite time consuming and ultimately quite call heavy. He's essentially piggybacked off this and essentially gone into an insanely profitable market that doesn't need huge amounts of staff and ultimately doesn't need a ridiculous amount of his workload, but he can then also charge a high amount of money. Now, a big thing with different communities and Skool communities is it's very hard to scale an offer incredibly quickly unless you have a massive social media audience, spend a fortune on ads, if you are charging small, low ticket. And the problem with small, low ticket is even if you're spending a lot on ads, it's hard to be profitable with ads because essentially if you're charging 97 quid a month, you can only spend essentially less than 97 quid a month to even pretty much break even on the first month. Now, you might be happy breaking even on the first month, knowing that your retention rate's 12 months, 6 months, whatever it is, but it's a lot harder to make £1 million selling something for 97 quid as opposed to selling something a little bit more expensive that brings a bigger ROI, and ultimately what you'll then find the clients that you work with at higher prices end up being easier to work with. So when we look at essentially where Max is bringing his traffic in, main platforms, organically, he's essentially bringing in from YouTube, Skool, which is his group and his personal profile, Twitter and Instagram. Now, a big thing here is I think people, when they initially launch their different social media platforms, is they try and launch everything at once. A big thing, don't spread yourself too thin. I'm all for obviously diversifying. We don't just want to rely on one platform initially because then you put yourself up at risk. If that platform goes down, you lose your account, all of those things, you essentially lose your main lead source. However, you need to get really good and get consistent leads and consistently make sales from one platform before you then look at scaling out to others. Otherwise, you spread yourself too thin, especially when you start your business initially and it's probably just you running the business. You don't have the resources for numerous different people to help you do that. So first things first, start on one platform, but he's really realized the value in longer form content. So for example, YouTube, for example, Skool, it essentially nurtures someone even more because they get to know him even more as opposed to just short clips and reels on social media. So he then essentially also has a second YouTube channel focused on selling Skool and teaching people how to win the Skool games. So Skool has obviously become insanely profitable over the last few months and ultimately year because of Alex Hormozi essentially entering in and being a co-founder, right, a partner in it. And they've then, Skool have released the Skool games, and the big thing with Skool is it gamifies the whole process of starting a business. People then also want to have that competitiveness and win the Skool games. Max won the Skool games, which then means he now then has even more authority off the back of it. And because he then has more authority, people will then be willing to spend more money with him because he has the proof that he's done that, and people will think he's then able to teach him to do the same. You'll then notice Instagram has keywords. For example, DM me and then whatever the keyword is. The whole thing with this is he's then looking at getting inbound leads. We have to realize that conversations book calls and calls close clients. And if we can't get leads to come to us, we have to go to them, but it's a lot easier if we can get a lot of inbound leads. Max will have a good amount of traffic. If you look here, 24K. If you look here, 1.5K. Not a ridiculous amount of traffic, but still a lot of traffic and plenty to make a lot of money from. His whole thing is that he'll help you make millions without millions of views, and ultimately it shows because he doesn't have a millions and millions of followers, but he makes a lot of money. And a big thing with this is if he was charging really low ticket, he wouldn't be able to make the money that he is because you need a large amount of people. His main YouTube channel offers free value and it posting his free courses. So essentially the funnel from that is then pushing people into his Skool community. So he's taking longer form content that they get to know him, builds more trust, and he pushes them into his Skool community where he then builds even more trust. And chances are when they opt into a Skool community, they're giving him their contact details, so then he'll probably be able to remarket with email lists, essentially if he has captured that details. What it also then means is he has that data, he can then also retarget with ads too. His Skool profile, he's in the top 10 for money-making categories. Money-making categories as well is essentially something that can be more profitable, especially with like YouTube AdSense and things. When it's related to money and finance, it can also be insanely profitable. So he's ranked highly there as well. So then naturally, because Skool gets a lot of footfall and on Skool's Discover page, he'll then also be ranked too. You'll then see that his YouTube is essentially giving proof that he's done it too. So how I made 2 million on YouTube in 12 months without millions of views, for example. The content strategy is free value, screenshots of client results, social proof, one call to action to his free training. So you'll notice how he's not always trying to sell. He's often trying to push people into his free community, and he knows that once they're in there, that in his ecosystem, he has a much higher chance of selling them down the line. For example, work with us there. A big thing with this as well is he's obviously got a lot more following on this page, and he realizes that when people are essentially making a decision, they want simplicity. It's why funnels work better than websites when you're pushing traffic to them. There's one clear outcome. We always have to break down what that next step in the sales process is, and he obviously knows it's clicking into this and then going into his funnel. So we're not trying to then necessarily sell everything at once. Even if you have numerous products, we're trying to just get them to do the next step, which is probably inquiring, booking, and call. YouTube and Facebook ads essentially retargeting that sends people to his free community. So he knows that at this point, retargeting them with ads, retargeting audiences are arguably going to be some of the most profitable audience that you could run. Essentially retargeting like a 7-day stack, so people who have followed, engaged, liked, visited your profile in the last 7 days on Instagram. Depends the amount of volume that you have. If you have a lot of volume coming in, you can get away with doing something like a 7-day stack. If you don't have as much volume, you probably have to push it out a little bit more to maybe the last 30 days. He then, because he's posting a lot of content, he then can retarget all of these people into his Skool community. You'll then notice at this point, he's not just trying to sell everyone into an offer. He realizes that his offer takes time to nurture them. So he's trying to funnel everyone into his community. What this then also means, it's clever because he then gets ranked higher in Skool on the leaderboard on the Discover page, and then it's a snowballing effect. This then process also then gives him more credibility because he can then say, well, I've got this many people in my community. So then it also means that he then gets more authority off the back of it. You'll then notice that everything then funnels through essentially into his funnels. Free training on how we made 12 million plus in 12 months with a brand new online education business. People obviously want to make money, they want to understand how, and they've seen that he's done it. So this is clever because it's giving him social proof that he is the social proof, and it positions him as an authority figure, and people want to learn how. He then has a free community with a free course on how to start a Skool community, so then people can essentially take some instant wins. He obviously teaches people how to start a Skool community, so he's giving them some of the information now so they can take it away, they can implement it, have a win, and then resonate that he has given me that win, so imagine what his paid course would be like. Funnels, you'll see it super clear, and the big thing with this is we need to remember above the fold, the concept of above the fold. So essentially I'll land on the funnel page, the majority of traffic probably coming from mobile. We need to realize what is above the fold. So before I have to scroll, what can I see? So here we've got a clear headline, how I made 2 million plus in 12 months with a brand new online education business. A clear subheading, how I help beginners turn their passion or skills into $10,000 to $100,000 months online education business. Click play to watch, and then he's got social proof, backed full of social proof. So it's essentially he's speaking to one direct type of person. That's a big thing with funnels, ads, just content in general. Businesses trying to speak to everyone and not speaking to no one. You just need to speak to one clear person. You'll then notice that he's got insane amounts of social proof from clients, and also from him because he won the Skool games. He also then piggybacks off the fact that he's got Alex Hormozy in here, who obviously is a huge figure right now across social media. So him being seen with him also gives him a lot of credibility. What you'll then find is in this funnel, people then essentially are pushed through into a Calendly page, and then after this, they then book a call with essentially a form to qualify them. Now, he will have a lot of volume, so what you'll notice is essentially when a call is booked, they obviously get email confirmations, thank you page with the next steps, which then give even more social proof. So at this point in the video, 1, he's showing a lifestyle that people probably want. 2, he's showing the ClickFunnels awards, showing that he's made this much money. 3, he's showing social proof, but he's also making the steps really clear. A big thing with funnels, you don't want to overcomplicate them, you want them to be simple, and you want people to understand what's happening. You'll then notice that from here, they're pushed through into a call with his team, On here, they'll obviously try and pitch them. If they can't pitch them, he'll then essentially push them into his free community and free course if they're not already. So essentially it's in an ecosystem of someone's on a call. If they then don't close, they go back into the free community, get nurtured even more. And in the free community, they probably take some value away to start a product, a Skool community. And then off the back of that, they then make more money. Then they can come back in when they eventually have that money. And they'll have made money following his strategy. So then they'll see even more value in working with him. What we'll then see off the back of this is then he essentially has two main offers. One, which is the masterclass, two, which is the mastermind. You notice he's got 1K members in here, and then essentially 10 plus clients. So a big thing with this is he will most likely have started out just with the masterclass because it speaks to a lot of people, whereas the mastermind will speak to one person. Now I know we obviously, like I said, we want to speak to one specific person instead of everyone. Now the mastermind will just essentially speak to people on a wider income bracket. So for example, the mastermind will probably be working with people here you can see who want to scale past 100K months, whereas this is probably more beginner people, helping them launch their initial community. A big thing, he probably won't have started both. He'll have probably started with this one, and then he'll have gained traction. People will have seen success, and then he will have needed an upsell. He will have then needed an upsell to push them into this, where they probably then have a little bit more closer contact with him. You'll see that there's less people in here compared to essentially more people in here. You'll then notice that it's a lot easier to scale one product to start with rather than trying to scale two at the same time. Means that he then has essentially evolved, and that's a big thing with businesses. You will then evolve, and this price point will then obviously be much more expensive compared to this one, because at this point you'll then see that this price point isn't visible, like you don't know what the price is, whereas here it's clear, it's 1.2K a year. And people then pay yearly, because when we look at like psychologically, if people pay monthly, they then essentially tier the value that they had from 1 month to the next. Whereas if they pay yearly, they tier the value from 1 year to the next year. And they'll probably then do a savings where if they pay yearly, they get a discount too. And everything then funnels back into Skool. So he's big on Skool, hence why everything funnels into Skool, but he's realized that longer form essentially content nurtures even more. Now what we do for clients is we essentially build out all these systems for them. We have our all-in-one sales and marketing platform, which essentially replaces the need for all these different steps and all these different softwares. It literally replaces Calendly, it replaces ClickFunnels, it replaces Skool even, it replaces all of these different softwares all in one place, fraction of the cost, and then we build it all out so it's really simple so you can focus on just doing what you normally do best. But ultimately, if you found that helpful, drop a subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.